Welcome, everybody. I am delighted to have you all join us. This is a webinar in a series called On the Right Track, the Transformative Potential of Rail. And today's webinar in this series is the Spanish case, Transformacion Rápida. And I don't speak Spanish, so apologies for the pronunciation there. My name is Asha Weinstein Agrawal, and I'm the director of the Mineta Transportation Institute's National Transportation Finance Center, as well as the education director at the Mineta Transportation Institute here at San Jose State. At MTI, one of my key responsibilities is directing our online graduate program in transportation management. And I think there'll be some information in the chat if anyone wants to learn more about that. MTI is a university transportation center funded by the U.S. Department of Transportation, and we lead 4 competitively selected multi-university consortia that focus on improving the mobility of people and goods. MTI's mission is to increase mobility for all by improving the safety, efficiency, accessibility, and convenience of our nation's transportation system. We accomplish this through surface transportation research, technology transfer, like this webinar, education, and workforce development. In today's webinar, we continue to explore 50 years of global high-speed rail innovation. Today, we're moving to Spain, where we learn how the country went from being a latecomer in high-speed rail to having the most track mileage in Europe. Before we begin, we want to thank our co-sponsors. So thank you to the APTA High Speed and Intercity Rail Passenger Committee, California High Speed Rail Authority, and High Speed Rail Alliance for supporting this series and empowering us all to learn more about the benefits of rail. Now let me introduce our moderator for today, Eric Eidlin. As a City of San Jose Station Planning Manager, Eric plays a leading role in the city's efforts to transform Diridon Station into a world-class multimodal hub. As a fellow of the German Marshall Fund of the U.S., Eric published a widely cited report on high-speed rail station planning in France and Germany that drew lessons for California. He holds a graduate degree in urban design from the University of Toronto and a master's degree in city planning from the University of California, Los Angeles. Welcome, Eric. So we are very excited to have such a distinguished guest with us today. Eduardo Romo is an international expert in railway systems with over 35 years of experience in high-speed rail. Eduardo has contributed to the planning, design, and operation of high-speed rail lines in Spain, across Europe, and the United States, overseeing infrastructure, systems, and operational analyses. Based in Oakland, California, he serves as principal at, and I'm sure I don't know if we say TRES or TRES LLC, and is president of Fundación Caminos de Hierro and vice chairman of the UIC Intercity and High-Speed Rail Committee. A dedicated researcher and educator, Eduardo brings unparalleled insight into the future of high-speed rail. Welcome, Eduardo.
Thanks so much, Asha. So before turning it over to Eduardo, just to set the stage a little bit, Eduardo, could you please advance your slides? We're just going to provide a quick overview of where we're headed today. So if you can keep clicking. So we're going to start by just setting the stage for the origins of high-speed rail in Spain. Where the idea came from, timelines, and then after that, we're going to talk about Eduardo will talk about the broader development of the network after the successful proof of concept in the first line, and then the third we'll spend a lot of time talking about the broader social and economic impacts of the investment in high-speed rail. Next slide, please. Actually, do you want to just quickly go over the key figures here, Eduardo?
Yes, Eric. Thank you. I can bring some comments regarding this slide, but first of all, let me thank you all of you for inviting me to join this interesting program within the Military Transportation Institute. I am quite familiar with the MTI. I remember 10, 12 years ago, I had the opportunity, the privilege to meet Rod Diridon, an outstanding leader in modern transit and sustainable transit systems. I had the opportunity also to share with him some initiatives across California, delivering seminars on high-speed system technologies together with the California High-Speed Rail Authority, together with some universities in Berkeley, San Jose for sure, Fresno, Bakersfield. And thank you also, and congratulations for the success under the current programs for the current executive director, Dr. Karen Philbrick, and all her team that are delivering this kind of successful programs and academic dissemination of the modern transit and transportation systems in a new requirement of sustainability of all these kind of systems. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for your introduction, Asha, Eric, and all your team. This is a slide that is putting some framework on our presentation today. Most of you probably are familiar with Spain. That is a European country, mid-sized country. We are 50 million inhabitants. The size of the country is also a medium size, 500,000 square kilometers, with a couple of major cities, metropolitan areas. One of them, Madrid, the capital town of the country, with 6-7 million inhabitants, and Barcelona, 4-5 million inhabitants. It is pretty comparable, for instance, with some of the largest states here in the country, for instance, California, maybe also with Texas. What is the network, the high-speed rail network? Yes, introducing a little bit later, we will have opportunity to go in more detail. Currently, the high-speed system in Spain means 4,000 kilometers under operation, and the two key features could be the design speed, the same design speed for the future, 350 kilometers per hour, was the design 30 years ago. Currently is operating under a maximum speed of 300 kilometers per hour all across these 4,000 kilometers of the network. A number of achievements under the interoperability policy governing the European Union that makes easier to introduce international services for the high-speed system. So interoperability allows to trains easily, smoothly crossing European borders. And very, very recently, another European program to open the passenger service market to the competition. We will have opportunity within the next slides to come in more detail.
Thank you, Eduardo. So to really kick it off, could you advance to the next slide, please? So here we want to talk a bit about the origins of high-speed rail in Spain, and it's important to note, compared to many other European countries, that Spain was a relative latecomer, as Asha already noted in the intro. And so, can you say a little bit more about passenger rail in Spain, let's say in the 80s, before high-speed rail, and what were the first, what was the impetus? What first gave people the idea that this would be a good transportation technology for Spain, and a little bit about how it's changed the travel experience? I think you're muted, Eduardo. Sorry about that.
Yes, thank you, Eric. Yes, the Spanish rail system in the late last century, in the 80s, for instance, was a modest service. The best, the most performance service was this picture. This was a small train running at a maximum speed of 160 kilometers per hour. That means 100 miles per hour. The number of frequencies were very limited. The number of services was also reduced. The journey times were not attractive. The punctuality was not very bright, and the trend was reducing the services. The system was declining, was not updated, and the the performance was quite modest. Within the passenger transportation system for long distance travels, the highways, the road was having a very dominant role. The aviation was increasing the trend last century, and the railroad was showing some weakness and a downward trend. If we go to just quickly to these graphics showing the modal split for passenger long distance trips, you can see the increase of mobility happening last in the second half of the century, from the 50s to the 90s. The mobility, this is the number of passenger kilometer. So the totally was very quickly increasing, strongly increasing, and the blue line was the dominant role for the highway, the cars, the buses, the highway. The rail system, the red color here, was very flat, even less than flat, and aviation was increasing. In this other graph, we can see in more detail, more clearly, probably in the 50s, the railroad was showing a key role. Half of the passengers were using trains. 60% of the passengers were using the rail mode. 40% was for the road, and just the aviation was starting, was almost nothing. And from the 50s to the 90s, you can see the downward trend of the percentage of passengers using the rail services according to the increase of the highways. And in these years, in the 80s, early the 80s, there was a major program to improve the highway system within Spain. But what we can see here is that at the 80s, at the 90s, around 10% of the passengers were the only users of the rail system in a framework of not very attractive system services. After that, in those years, in the 80s, that was the start of the democracy in Spain. Many things were changing, the economy was growing, the mobility was increasing, and Spain was more active within the European scene. And in 1986, a decision was made to introduce the first Spanish high-speed rail line connecting Madrid and Seville, and that should be a piece of the future European network, high-speed network at that time. A number of difficulties were around the decision. As far as the economy was a medium-sized economy, it was not a very bright moment for the Spanish economy. And even from the technical point of view, there were some additional challenges. A very curious one, most of you are familiar with this issue, is that the track gauge, you all know that the track gauge is the distance from rail to rail. The distance from rail to rail is a key differentiator for the different rail systems. In the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal is having historically a different track gauge compared with all the other European countries. The European countries are enjoying the standard track gauge 1.435 millimeters, and in the Iberian Peninsula we are having the broad gauge a bit broader, and that was bringing an additional challenge for the decision. But anyhow, the decision was made to build a line connecting Madrid and Sevilla. At that moment, there was a lack of capacity in the rail system connecting Madrid with Andalusia, with the southern part of Spain, and the decision was made to build a new line around 500 kilometers long, with a design speed of 300 kilometers per hour, and with a very detailed schedule for commissioning and opening, because the line has to be in operation a very particular day in April 1992, because that was the opening of the International Expo at Sevilla. 1992 was quite an iconic year in Spain. International Expo was to be delivered in Sevilla, and maybe some of you remember the Olympic Games were scheduled to be delivered in Barcelona. So that year was very busy for Spain, but fortunately, the high-speed line from Madrid to Sevilla was built, commissioned, and started full operation from the first day in April 1992. You can see here in this map the difference from the performance of the service before the high-speed system. The high-speed line was over 5 hours traveling from Madrid to Sevilla. Just after the introduction of the AVE, AVE you are familiar maybe, is the acronym of Alta Velocidad Española, it's the Spanish brand for the high-speed systems. The trip time was less than 1/2, 2 hours and 20 minutes for 471 kilometers. According to that, as a consequence, the ridership was increasing. After opening the line was over 1 million and was multiplied by 4 times 20 years later. But what is important is to get familiar with the transformation of the mobility in this corridor. This is a key view of how the mobility changed after introducing this new system, the new high-speed line. As before the introduction of the AVE in 1991, the dominant road was the road. Was for the road. Car was meaning 60% of the passengers, and buses 15%, altogether 75% of the travelers in this corridor from Madrid to Sevilla was choosing the road. Additional 10% for the aviation and just 14% for the conventional rail services. Just 1 year later, the change was dramatical. The transformation was really quick. The transformación was very rápida. As I was mentioning, thank you for bringing this title to the presentation. This was a very quick transformation. Just 1 year later, the AVE, the high-speed services, were the first option for the passengers. That effect will be appearing line by line after the introduction of the high speed for new corridors. The car was remaining 30%, the bus was remaining 80%, and the aviation was almost disappearing. And that has been repeating for the different services. As I was mentioning, it was a very challenging decision on many fronts. The different of gauges was a challenge, but the new line was built according to the European track gauge, the standard track gauge. At that time, there was not enough capacity in the domestic industry to manufacture high-speed trains or to manufacture and deliver signaling system, communication system. And it was necessary to combine the track, the rolling stock, and systems coming from different geographies and coming from different suppliers and manufacturers. But this first line, fortunately, was full success. The success was based maybe on a robust engineering approach and additional effort in planning. And this was, at the end of the day, the first step of a very ambitious long-term planning. As Eric was introducing the second.
Yeah, thank you, Eduardo. So yeah, thanks for giving us some of the context there. Obviously, some big challenges there with the track gauge and so on. And yeah, some of those statistics you showed were pretty amazing, right? In the mode shift away from an airplane speaks to, obviously some key things I think we're going to touch on now. Why there was the will and the consensus to move forward with a vast expansion of the network. So specifically, offering a service that is quicker, more convenient, more comfortable. Also linking the places that people are coming from and going to. I think that's another key thing that we'll like to touch on. So can you talk a little bit more about how the public was convinced that this was a worthwhile endeavor? Maybe a little bit more about the technical and engineering challenges, because not all corridors are the same, obviously. And then funding. So we all know, and we know that building high-speed rail is very expensive. Where did the money come from to build all of the new lines?
Yes, we can follow with some comments and data. Yes, as you are mentioning, this is this kind of infrastructures are very, very big pieces of investment. The investment required is really, very big amounts. Not only in Spain, everywhere when you are considering to build this kind of transportation infrastructure, you have to do an upfront investment, very big. In Spain, the first one, together with the decision of building the line, or the decision to funding the Madrid to Sevilla line, was publicly funded in 100% and in time. And after the success of the first line, the success in terms of the passengers' reaction. As I was mentioning, in 1 year, the first choice for the passengers was the high speed. Then that was the foundation for the governments. All kind of parties in Spain from that time are supporting the development of the high speed network, and from that time the Spanish system has been developing, as you can see in this schematic, covering the country with overlapping two rail system. The standard track gauge, 4,000 kilometers. You can see in this dark color, dark green, and the conventional Iberian track gauge with a broader track gauge of 12,000 kilometers that are currently integratedly operated. So the trains are able to run from one track to another track with different gauge, thanks to a domestic solution brought by the research of our industry, as we will see later on. The second and further steps were to build the Madrid to Barcelona line. The first one was Madrid to Sevilla. We follow the trend from 92 to 10 years ago to 2015. We can see how most of the lines across the country were being built continuously, as following the trend of the ridership. The passengers were keeping the preference for the high speed, and the government was keeping the investment on extending the network, following this trend. And at that time, more than 3,000 kilometers were operated in high speed. What was happening regarding the ridership? The passengers were continuously increasing from the 92 initial line, Madrid-Sevilla line, and then the Madrid-Barcelona was commissioned by segments, into segments, first here and second here, and now in 2007, Madrid-Barcelona was also operated, and the trend was continuously increasing, in part due to the extension of the network, but also, for instance, when Renfe is the Spanish, probably you are aware of it, the Spanish public rail operator, and in 2012 introduced a new pricing policy, reducing the price of the tickets, and again the readership reacted positively and increased the trend of the number of passengers. This is the figure of passengers using the system for the different services. There are, in this color, we have the high speed long distance. This is the regional high speed services, and these are the double track gauge services, linking stations inside and outside the high speed system. The reaction of the passengers is, sorry, is very clear, coming from 1 million passengers to over 30 million passengers in these 25 years. Also, the traditional conventional rail services were increasing following this trend, but what was dramatical was the increase of the high-speed services. Again, the transformation of the mobility. All the corridors from Madrid to Seville, from Madrid to Barcelona, from Madrid to Valencia are showing the same trend. After the introduction of the high-speed services in Madrid-Seville, 90% of the passengers were using the train compared to 10% of the air mode. And for the cumulative trend, again, the same. You can see in blue the aviation demand, passenger demand, decreasing trend, and the increasing trend for the high-speed rail passengers. In Madrid, Valencia, a very, very quick transformation here from the dominant role of relative role of the aviation compared to the rail system. Just when the high-speed line was open, it was a dramatical change. Nowadays, again, almost 90% of the passengers are choosing the train compared 13 for the aviation, or also in Madrid, Barcelona, that is a very, very robust connection for the air system, was 90% compared for the aviation, compared to 10% for the rail before the introduction of the high-speed system, the high-speed services. In this year, then they were approached, and when the ticket pricing policy changed, well, the difference was dramatically, and even more recently, the high-speed system is playing a major dominant role. Again, a view from the 90s to the current situation, the dominant role for the airplane compared to the bus and the rail services here, and now recently the rail services are having the first stage. As a few summary of this evolution of the high-speed system, we are evolving from a line from Madrid to Sevilla to a network of about 3,000 kilometers that is based on a long-term planning to develop the system across the country. The importance of the speed, 200 kilometers per hour for the combined services with different track gauges, 300 kilometers per hour of maximum operating speed, and 350 kilometers per hour for the design of the lines. A high level of flexibility in the operations, including one network but different services, and different services with different features: regional, long distance, very long distance, and even international. What means very long distance? For instance, from Barcelona to Seville means more than 1,000 kilometers, or from Barcelona to Malaga, more than 1,000 kilometers that are operated around 4 or 5 hours with a very good reception from the demand. The main corridor, Madrid to Barcelona, with a line of 800 kilometers, as I was mentioning, 350 kilometers per hour design speed, standard gauge, standard track gauge, the modern European rail traffic management system for traffic control, interoperability of the line, and the very attractive trip time, Madrid to Barcelona, more than 600 kilometers in 2 hours and 30 minutes journey time. This is the current, the purple network under operation with high speed. In Spain, still under extension, new lines under construction. In the Basque Country, the northern part of the network, also connecting to Lisbon, to Portugal, and the southwestern areas of the country, and to the very southeast destinations in Almeria. So again, around 4,000 kilometers in operation, 700 under construction, and still 800 kilometers planned. together with the conventional network that remains on 12,000 kilometers per hour. With new international service, according to the interoperability, Renfe, the Spanish operator, has started operating new high-speed services between between Spain and France, from Madrid to Marseille, for instance, or from Barcelona to Lyon. In the future, maybe next summer, it will be operated a new line from Barcelona to Paris. A successful based also in a technical robust basis that was established by the European Union regarding the technical specifications for interoperability. This is a European frame, mandatory standards to allow the different systems to be connected and to be easily interoperable, and that has opened the door to introduce additional operators, has opened the door to introduce international services, and even to integrate passenger services inside the national networks. This is a very recent news for Europe, and particularly for Spain, for the high-speed system, as there is another program at the European Union level to open the market, the high-speed, the passenger service, rail services market to operators. Traditionally, every country had one public passenger rail operator. In Spain, for instance, is Renfe, but few years ago, the European Union established the policy to open the market, and Spain is the first country offering 3 different operators within the high-speed network. As you can see here, Renfe is operating the system with 2 different brands, under 2 different brands, the traditional AVE brand and the low-cost ABLO. Low-cost is the same trains, the same trip times, but reduced features on board, for instance, one single economy class. The second operator that started operating 4 years ago is Ouigo. Ouigo is a French company, is a subsidiary of the SNCF, the public traditional rail operator, the SNCF. And Ouigo is a low-cost brand, subsidiary of SNCF. The third one is Hierro, another foreign operator, is a joint venture between the Italian Trenitalia rail operator and national Spanish investment company. All 3 of them are operating the system currently. Ouigo started operating Madrid-Barcelona 4 years ago. Hierro started in 2022, and both a couple of years ago, Ouigo and Hierro started operating Madrid-Seville, and the process is still open, as this is the first phase of the liberalization of the market, and the second phase is planned for the next year. And that is a very impressive graphic. Maybe the numbers are a little bit small, but what is important is the shape. Of the graphic. We have the timeline here from 2016 to last year, and these are the number of passengers values quarterly for 4 quarters every year, and we can see from 2016, for instance, 2019. Well, it was quite a stable level of demand. The black line is for the Renfe passengers. It was quite stable. 2020 was the pandemic. The ridership almost disappeared at that year, and then the Renfe ridership was starting recovery and was recovering at the similar level before, compared to before the pandemic. But in 2021, we started offering services for passengers in this with this green graphic, and the blue one is the cumulative value for all the 3 operators, as Hierro started 1 year later offering services. What is in a round number, you can see graphically, we are coming from this value to this value. That means almost doubling the ridership in these 2-3 years after the introduction of additional services, additional prices, additional frequencies in all across the system. In a few words, in Spain are 3 operators, Renfe plus Wigo plus Hierro, and that means additional services, more fare options, more fare tickets, different prices, but especially additional frequencies. The number of passengers has been increasing dramatically, and passengers from other systems are coming again to the rail system that is a more sustainable transportation system. For instance, Madrid-Barcelona, the main line in Spain, there are 3 operators currently for different type of services, including the 2 of them are low cost. And you can pay attention to the number of frequencies, more than 40 round trips per day, almost 50. That means a train, a service every 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes, 3 services per hour. Currently, the high-speed option is the first choice. 80% of the passengers are choosing the rail service, high-speed service, compared to 21% for air mode. Well, and the increasing trend in this line has been doubling from the initial trend to the recent 12 million of passengers per year in 2022. That is meaning some 14 million currently. That was the second step, the development of the network and the current situation, as Eric was introducing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eduardo. Some really impressive ridership trends there, and it's really, really impressive. I think we're running a little bit behind schedule, so we'll have to be a little bit quick here, but I know many of the people participating in this webinar are interested in the broader economic and social impacts of high-speed rail, and that's something that I've done a lot of work on. So in this next section, we're going to touch on that. I think we probably should keep it to about 10 minutes because we want to take some questions. But can you talk a little bit specifically about like how this has changed the way people live their lives in Spain? Change some time-space relationships. It can change maybe companies' decisions on where they want to locate their facilities. And it'd be good to hear about some specific stations in specific cities. And I know you're going to talk a little bit about some of the bigger cities where they've had to make decisions about building out a station in one part of a city versus another, as well as a station, I know, in the middle of the country that's more of a mid-sized city where there's been an opportunity with a new strategic location along the high-speed line between Madrid and Barcelona, the major urban centers, the opportunity there. So could you comment a bit on that, please?
Yes. Thank you, Eric. Yes, we were mentioning that the introduction of the high-speed system technology has been very transformative, and we can highlight these 4 fields of transformation we have been discussing regarding the mobility, how the new services have been transforming the mobility for passengers, but also for the economy, for the industry within Spain, for the economy around the rail system. For the economy around the rail system has been a very big opportunity to develop solutions like this that I was mentioning, new trains designed for running on the different track gauge networks is a Spanish solution to develop trains that are able to run crossing this very single facility, running on both kind of tracks, or for instance, developing a very strong industry of rolling stock manufacturing that nowadays are exporting Spanish products all around the world. For instance, this is the most recent development of the Targo company, a high-speed train running up to 330 kilometers per hour. That is now being introduced in the new services, but not only for the rolling stock industry, but for the signaling industry, but also for the construction services. Nowadays, it has been a very good opportunity for the Spanish industry to get developed and to enhance the capacity to provide and export services, or regarding exporting the international activity of the European economy, the European company, the European entities. For instance, this is another, just an example. There are a number of examples. You are familiar with the Saudi Arabia new high-speed line from Mecca to Medina, around 500 kilometers per hour, also operated 500 kilometers long, operated 300 kilometers per hour, was mostly built by a Spanish construction company. It is currently operated by Renfe, by the Spanish operator, using modern high-speed trains designed and manufactured in Spain. So in terms of the economy opportunities and for the industry, the investment, the huge investment in high-speed lines, it is now still paying back with these opportunities for the companies to be extended. Additionally, to these opportunities, the opportunity to take advantage of the new system to improve the quality of life in the cities and the land planning, that is very common all across Europe, where different cities are connected with high-speed lines. We're focusing on 3 examples in Spain: Barcelona, Zaragoza, and Madrid, as Eric was mentioning. Paris is a very clear example, Strasbourg or Lyon. But if I focus on the Spanish station, we can have some additional information for all of them. They can be traveled by high-speed train. And if we spend 1 minute for each of one, we can start by Zaragoza. Zaragoza is a medium-sized city in Spain, around 1 million inhabitants, just in the middle of the corridor from Madrid to Barcelona. It has a very dense old town, as is very common in Europe. This was the former station in the very center of the city, but there was not room enough for introducing the high-speed services, and a new mine terminal was built in the city skirts. Well, that is bringing very, very interesting opportunities for current TOD, transit-oriented development around this new facility, big facility for the city that has been designed for the long term. You can see a very clear space, a very open, a very understandable functionality for the station, for both the high-speed system and for the regional conventional trains. This is a very clear example on how the even intermediate size cities are taking advantage of this investment for developing the city. For sure, the main cities in Spain, Barcelona and Madrid. Barcelona currently is operating the rail services through the traditional Sants center, in the center of the city rail station, and is under construction a second terminal in La Sagrera. Both are connected by a couple of underground rail tunnels, and this will bring additional capacity that is necessary after the introduction of the new services. This is enhancing the intermodality. The new station is bringing additional connectivity, and in all of them the opportunity for introducing TOD. The La Sagrera, this is a rendering of La Sagrera, is under construction. Maybe in a couple of years will be finished. These are huge projects. It is taking 5, 6, 7 years to build a full underground passenger station connected with 2 additional metro subway lines, and with plenty of public transit services, buses, or even taxis. In Spain is a very affordable service that will be deliver additional services for the local passengers in Barcelona. And same in the same train, Madrid is the capital town in Spain, and the population is around 3-4 million inhabitants in the center of the city, and the metropolitan area 6-7 million inhabitants. Currently, there are 2 available stations, main stations, one for the southern part of the city, Atocha, and one for the northern part, Chamartín, connected by three double track rail tunnels, 2 of them for the conventional services, one recently built for the high-speed system. This is the current situation. Both stations are operating at capacity. This is a nice view of Atocha. This is the historical canopy. The modern station was built together to the historical canopy. This is an opportunity. This is a space for restaurants and for passengers. But the station is working at capacity, and it is planned to be extended within the next years. The second one, Chamartín, we can see a current aerial view of the station. Is a very big piece of land, very piece of land, open air platforms, and working also at capacity. And this is the future view of the Chamartín station. This is a very good opportunity for the city to extend first the capacity of the station. This will be the future station currently under construction, extending the number of platforms, outdoor, open air, very convenient, very comfortable. But additionally to that, TOD, all these buildings are planned to be built in the future. All of them are walking distance to the new terminal that will be a transit hub for not only for high-speed system, for conventional, for commuter rail services, for regional buses, for 2 metro lines connecting the city, and additional number of buses. This is another example on how the Spanish high-speed system has been introduced and has been an opportunity to transform the mobility, to transform the economy, to transform the international activity, and additionally to increase the quality structure of the cities. And this is a very popular system in Spain. It's the first choice for passengers when they are traveling across the country, and not only popular for that, because additionally people is convinced that this is the route for a long-term sustainable transportation system for the country. Thank you for your attention, Eric. I think we have some opportunity for discussion or for
Yes,
questions.
thank you. Very interesting. We have a wide range of questions and comments. We won't be able to get to everything, and I'll try to bundle a few. I think first one is a good one. Actually, in the last webinar last month, we got the same question, which is about the differences between the U.S. and Spain. We heard the same thing about the differences between the U.S. and France last time. But so often, so many will claim that the U.S. and whatever European country, in this case Spain, are too different to draw meaningful parallels. What are the key points of comparison in your perspective? And Eduardo, I know, maybe it's hard to talk about the U.S. as a whole, and maybe it's better to talk about specific regions of the U.S. like California, where many have drawn parallels. But I'll turn it over to you for your thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Eric. This is quite a big question. And yes, we could talk about similarities and differences from country to country or from similar regions. Similarities, there are more and more needs of mobility. This is everywhere in Spain, in States, in California, wherever there is a trend of increasing mobility. There are more and more passengers willing to travel, and there are opportunities for the passengers to travel. Similarities, increase of mobility, and the aim of passengers of have convenient services. This is everywhere. The passenger always is looking for a convenient, comfortable, high performance service. And there are plenty of differences. Also, the history of the countries in terms of the transportation system are different. For instance, is a differentiator that in the United States, 50 years ago, around the 70s, we could say that the passenger long distance offer was dramatically reduced, and the current actual offer for long distance passenger in the United States is very limited. This is a difference compared to the European experience, but there are some additional differences that are introducing difficulties to develop the new lines. For instance, in terms of laws, the Spanish law for acquiring land for the new right-of-ways is much more executive. It's much more effective than the local American law. So it is easier in Spain, in Europe, to acquire land for a new high-speed line compared to the United States. But another difference, that is a very, very important difference, that the conventional system are differently owned in Europe, in Spain, and in the United States. Curiously, in United States, because probably it's the only country worldwide, the conventional railroad network, probably the largest network worldwide, is mostly privately owned. That is a difference compared to the Spanish and the European rail network that are owned by the government, are publicly owned by the government. Maybe this could be a couple of interesting difference to be highlighted.
Thank you, Eduardo. And I don't know, we're a little short on time, so I'm going to group a bunch of questions together. So there are many questions about how the system was funded. And we know it's mostly, at least initially, or certainly for the infrastructure, mostly different public sources. But there are also questions about comparing, in particular, this very quick project implementation in Spain, 6 years for quite a amount of track mileage compared to the progress we've been able to make in California. So there are some questions about what are the factors that allowed for such quick implementation in Spain. And I know you. Anyway, I know you think from our discussions it's a lot about the political commitment and the certainty. But anyway, why don't you continue a little bit?
Yes. Regarding the funding, a very clear experience. All the system has been publicly funded from the very beginning, and only a few minor pieces in the station have been under public-private partnership. At the core of the system has been publicly funded, as this is a very long-term investment. And why it was so fast, the implementation of the first line? Well, that was 40 years ago. And at that time, it was not a requirement, such a detailed environmental analysis of the project. So that allows to be quite fast designing and building, but additionally, the availability of funding. The funds were made available at that time, and there was a very strong political majority that made easier to implement the decision of investing. That was a big effort. That was a big economic effort for the Spanish economy, for the taxpayers, but fortunately it has been a success, and now it is paying back.
Thank you. And then maybe one quick one. I see Thomas Dorsey, one of my former students, wanted to ask, why is it that they reduced the operating speed between Madrid and Barcelona? Do you know that?
About reducing operating speed?
It's okay if you don't know, but I thought a quick one we could maybe end.
Okay, well, no. From Madrid to Barcelona, the line is operated at 300 kilometers per hour maximum speed, with a design speed for the future of 350 kilometers per hour. I haven't heard about any specific reduction of speed in the line. It is currently very, very high performantly operated.
Great, thank you. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. So with that, I wanted to thank you, Eduardo, for joining us and for all of your insights. If you enjoyed today's sessions, be sure to mark your calendars for the next webinar in the series. We'll continue learning from the success of high-speed rail in Germany by hearing from GMP. GMP, they are famous. They build design airports and train stations, famously the Berlin main station, which I consider to be perhaps one of the best examples in the world of multimodal hub design. So please mark your calendars for February 12th. That'll be at 10 a.m. Pacific. More details, including the registration link, will be available soon. Also, there was some mention about a study abroad class that Asha, the initial introducer of this. Thank you, Asha. If you're interested in learning more about the many benefits of high-speed rail, make sure to check out our opportunity to experience them in person. Dr. Asha Weinstein-Agarwal and I will be leading an immersive high-speed rail study trip across Europe starting May 29th of this year. This immersive study abroad experience offers a first-hand view of successful rail station mega projects in France and Spain. It is open to upper division undergrads as well as graduate students at any university who have a minimum GPA of 3.0. The class is also open to working professionals who have completed a 4-year bachelor's degree. We've already put a link in the chat, I believe. I will put it there again if you'd like to learn more. So let me copy and paste that before I sign off. But appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you all, many of you, next month. Thanks very much. And thank you, Eduardo.
Thanks to you, Eric.